uh, May 21st, 2025, 2025. City, Ithaca City School District Board of Education Finance Committee meeting to order. Second item on the agenda is public comment.
No public.
There is no public comment. And therefore there is no committee response. So then we jump forward to item 3, approval of minutes.
Looks good.
Right. No shaking heads. So minutes are approved. Right on to item 4. Emily, could you walk us through?
I'm gonna let Lori speak about
Lori,
it.
okay. Welcome. Maybe you could just introduce yourself for people watching at home and lead us through this.
My name is Lori Mudge. I'm the new district treasurer here at the Ithaca City School District. And I'm reporting on the treasurer's report for March. Not really much to report other than you may notice that the investments are a little lower on this report this month, but you will definitely see them show up in the next month. And that's all due to the timing of the maturity dates that were done. Other than that, we're still watching the rates and hopefully they don't go too low.
Switching to Emily Scheit. And we have the food service profit and loss reports for February and March. And just a few things to point out, February had a snow day and the winter breaks. So anytime there's breaks like that or a snow day where staff need to be paid, that's going to impact our receipts for those particular months. Nothing really crazy to report from these, other than you can notice that the year-to-date is slowly reducing. So by year end, we should be looking positive or close to positive. Transfers. So I want to make an apology because when I was doing the transfers for this meeting, I noticed that the transfer report that I had attached to the last meeting was from the meeting prior. So you will notice that this is quite a significant amount of transfers. That's because it's doubled, because I wanted you to have the appropriate report. So I'm pulling it in from March 18th to the current last week. So that's why you see it, but it really is a lot of salary settlement, a lot of utility transferring around, some transfers to cover some transportation repairs and things like that. So nothing out of the ordinary for that as well. We have a couple of, let's see, surplus items, a broken refrigerator and a drill press that is outdated and unrepairable that we are surplusing and we'll be getting rid of. We have some donations, some small donations. First one from Community Foundation of Tompkins County for $3,000 to support the BJM Book Fest. We have a donation from the LACS Student Activities to support the Broadway Inbound Program. Bell Sherman 5th grade class to support Cornell Ropes Course team building project for their students. And then the Ithaca High School Student Activities donated money to support the STEM program trips for BJM students. Then I'll defer over to Dominic about this new lease language.
So what I can add to this is that I know that on a regular basis, we engage in leases, enter into agreements for a lease for technology and classroom instructional technology with through BOCES. And we do that on a fairly regular basis for things like laptops, Chromebooks, and so on and so forth. So I think this is just a slightly revised version of that lease. So it looks like we are entering into an agreement up to $500,000 and it's for a maximum period of 5 years. And so just as a general knowledge, to add to the general knowledge of these particular leases, we receive BOCES aid for that, for those equipments through this process. Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, NILAF, as you've seen from the treasurer's report, is one of our liquid liability investment companies that we work with. There is another one called NICLAS. And they're always vying for business between the school districts. Well, the beauty of it is NICLAS and NILAF have now merged. So we won't get bothered by the two different organizations. There'll be one. So this cooperative agreement is identical to what the board approved when we approved NILAF many years ago. So it was just pulled forward and changed up so we can provide NICLAS with that agreement that we will engage in investment business with them.
So the new agreement is with NICLAS.
I'm not
or-
sure if
and
we
what-
have
What
to
is
put
the
it.
merged name?
Yeah, we have to put it, I don't think they changed names, so I think NILAF merged into NICLAS, so I think it's gonna be referred to as NICLAS now, but they're now not separate entities, they're all in one. They provided a resolution. I deferred to our resolution that had been vetted by our attorney back when we entered into investment activities with NILAF.
So on our next treasurer's report, will we see in the category / NICLAS or not necessarily, since this is
I believe this is-
as of May 27th?
I believe they need to have this returned to them by June 30th, so I think it's going to take place over the summer. They just needed it in advance from the school districts.
I think we have some young people here who might be attending a finance committee meeting for the first time. I'm just guessing.
Okay.
Would you mind saying for their benefit, a few words about what my class would be doing?
For the NICLAS?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
just for the benefit of those who might be new to
So-
a finance committee meeting.
NICLAS is, what this is, it's an investment company that the district invests monies into. But it's not tied up like a certificate of deposit or treasury notes, which are investments that we don't have access to that money for a period of time. So we can we do investing in CDs and treasury notes. And those are tied up for anywhere from 6 months to usually a year. Because obviously a school district works on a budget and at the end of the year, we need all our funds back so we can be paying our things. And then we go over the summer, we start a new budget. So NILAF and NICLAS offers an opportunity to invest money, and we were over 4.2% on those investments, which is similar to what we're getting on CDs, but it allows us to have liquidity. So when we need that money to pull it back in to pay things for like the capital projects that we're doing, or some of the larger expenses that we have coming due, we have access to those funds to pull them in right away. And we're not closing out a CD or a treasury note early, which is not something you want to do because then you lose your interest. Okay? Is that good enough?
Yeah, I think so. Just to be sure I understand it, everyone understands. A bulk of our revenue comes in October when property tax is paid. And then expenses draw out from October until the end of the fiscal year. So rather than having a lot of money just sit in the bank earning
Right.
little or no interest, we try to maximize the value, time value of that money by putting it into liquid short-term investments that are safe, but provide a roughly 4% yield, which over the many millions of dollars adds up to benefits to our students, right? So did I get that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, so next item is discussion of reserves.
Sure, thank you. So on April 8th, we talked a little bit about, actually provided a presentation that gave you an overview of really what reserves and fund balance was and where we stood. Annually, we also provide the board with a reserves plan. And that typically happens around June 30th, July 1st, right in that area. And the reason why that occurs is because we have a better idea of our fiscal position at that point, towards the end of the year. So I think what we'd like to do is defer that particular conversation until then, just to follow our normal schedule, because again, we'll have a better idea of where we stand. Just as a reminder, though, one of the things that we brought up was the potential. And again, it isn't really a proposal yet, but it's a thought, just kind of, and we provided with that information, just to really think through the possibility of adding an additional reserve. I think we talked about the possibility of a repair reserve that sort of bridges the gap between average or the normal repairs we might have on a daily basis and capital projects, because things do occur in that realm. Like I think you talked about before, a door repair, something that might cost $7,000 to $10,000. Kind of have to do it. It's more or less not necessarily an emergency repair, but something that needs to occur. We don't have the time to wait for a capital project for that, but it doesn't really fall under maintenance costs. So the repair reserve might fit well with that. And we're also looking at the potential of combining a couple of our reserves. One is our tax certiorari. If we don't have claims that are potentially outstanding, that's something that we would have to liquidate. We'd have to do that by law anyway. And also we have two insurance liability reserves that are out there right now that would be best served consolidated. But again, we want to look at our fiscal position at the end of the year before we actually provide a proposal to that effect. That's all right.
That makes sense.
So we wouldn't, would we need to vote on combination of the reserve accounts or open up a new account?
You would. So we'll actually give you a formal plan at that point, and then to the finance committee, and then that would go to the board for a
Okay.
formal vote.
Okay. Any other discussion items for today before we talk about future discussion items? I put just as working with Tricia to make the agenda, we did not know when we wrote the agenda what the results of the election last night would be. So we had to allow for the contingency that had the results of the election for the budget gone the other direction, we would have a very long discussion probably in front of us. But it went the yes direction, so we don't have a lot to discuss about that. The voters have approved the budget. So other discussion items, that was for that purpose. So then we have future action items or agenda setting for our next meeting.
So that's where on June 17th meeting, we'll talk about the reserves, or are we waiting until July?
We would actually, we probably will have some discussion around that at that point, but we would wait till I think it's the end of the month, from June 30th, right around there, to actually formally present to the board that plan. And then we would have to approve it early July at the board.
Okay, so it's just July meeting, we would have to approve as a board, not June. Okay.
Correct.
What you'll,
Well, before June 30th would be the actual approval and vote.
Right,
So,
because the
yeah.
last meeting in June is the 24th.
It is the 24th for the board. The actual
Yes.
Board meeting. So the 17th, we would have to have that conversation, and we'll present the plan at that point if we can.
Okay.
Okay, so other future items? I have one, which this is just to consider, but yeah, we had talked as a full board, no decisions were made, but we had talked about a capital project for the fall. And so I guess one item I might put on the agenda for our next meeting is whether we want to have any preparation for that done over the summer. So next year's board would have whatever work was needed to consider a capital project in front of them early in the fall if we wanted to eventually move towards a fall election. Again, none of that has been decided, but I thought we could discuss that next meeting.
All of that is under discussion in the facilities committee with OACM, where they showed us a timeline at just a few minutes ago that we have to have discussion or finalize with some things by July in preparation for the fall. So,
Okay.
and I guess we can always request for Chris and team to return to a full board meeting as we continue the discussions, especially around the cooling systems.
Okay. Well, that works well. Anything else?
Good, all set here.
So for the young people, this is gonna be a short meeting. I don't know if we're getting towards the end of the semester or if you were all just really wanted to get into the details of the finance committee. I know the surplus inventory report was probably a big draw. But I think we're gonna finish early, which I'm sure you'll regret. And everyone can go home and write their reports. I guess the one comment I would add is the money to run this school district and to fund your education comes from the state and federal funds, but mostly from taxpayers. That's your parents, your neighbors, people who live here. And so what this committee tries to do is make sure that every dime is spent in the most transparent and public way possible. So a lot of the minutia that we're going through in the reports and all the checks and balances are there to ensure that taxpayers' dollars are spent appropriately. And that's, something maybe you can mention in your report. So are there no other comments? I think we'll draw the meeting to a close. And we are adjourned.
Yes.